Hey guys, hope you had a really great Memorial Day weekend. I know I did. I took like 4 days off from working, spent a ton of time with family. It was a lot of fun. Swimming, all sorts of stuff, barbecuing. You know how it goes. But the reason why I'm sharing this video with you today, my team and I, on our most recent episode of Mostly Business, and if you don't know the guys that I work with, Ryan Farrell, marketing genius, and handles pretty much all the marketing for me and many of my clients. And then Tim Ewing, our head coach, who works with all of our clients. And we did kind of a LinkedIn State of the Union, if you will. And we talked about all of the most current statistics on why LinkedIn is the number one place for marketing your business right now. We talked about the strategies that are working the best to get leads and clients off of LinkedIn, to more effectively market your business, to drive traffic, all those things. Tim works, I mean, he's worked with hundreds of clients over the last few years on this stuff. So it is all the stuff that's working right now. And we talked about how many leads and clients you can expect, and a whole lot more. And so I'm going to jump to that conversation here in just a second, and you can kind of be a fly on the wall as we share with you all of this information. And the reason this is so important, I believe, is because if you want more revenue, then you need more leads and clients. It's kind of a pretty clear-cut formula. And this is really the key that I've seen with every business of mine and everyone I've worked with for forever. It's the key for financial success, getting more leads and clients. And if LinkedIn, and this is proven that LinkedIn is the number one place to get more leads and clients, then knowing that that's the case, then what I'm sharing with you in this video is pretty much the most important thing that you can be focusing on right now. So this is really exciting, and you're in really good hands, because my team and I, we've been doing this for well over a decade. We pioneered the LinkedIn marketing space. I've written best-selling books on how to grow your business using LinkedIn. We've worked with over 500,000 students and business owners and marketers who we've taught our LinkedIn strategies and systems. And so you know that this stuff really works. And so with that, the only other thing I'll add before we get to the content here is, in a couple weeks, I am kicking off a 4-week LinkedIn accelerator for people who want to work with me and my team to implement our proprietary system for doing this and getting more leads and clients in your business, and doing it quickly. So if you want to roll up your sleeves, actually get this done, you're going to love that. And I'll share more on that with you really soon. And so without further ado, here is myself, Tim, and Ryan. Let's jump into it. Today, one of the main things that I wanted to talk about today, that I messaged everybody about over the last couple of days, was what's exciting about LinkedIn these days. And the thing is as many of you know, I've been working on helping businesses use LinkedIn to get more leads and marketing now for going on, I guess, about 15 years, really. First started using it for business development for the company that I was the CFO of before I went out and started my own business. And that was going back 15 plus years ago. And so been doing it a long time. And people just do not stop asking me, what do I need to do to get better results on LinkedIn, to get more leads, to get in front of more prospects, to get more awareness from my business, marketing, more clicks, more traffic. There's all sorts of things that you can do with it. And so one of the things that I wanted to talk about first was to set the stage, because it's been actually probably a few years since I've done kind of a State of the Union, if you will, on what's going on LinkedIn. And so I wanted to just spend a couple minutes just to update everybody on some of the recent statistics with it, because also one of the questions I get from probably half the people I talk to is like, is this still something that we should be doing? And so, well, the long and short of it is, yes, absolutely. Like, if you're in business and your prospects are on LinkedIn, then you need to have a solution to be able to tap into that and turn some of them into leads and clients. And So let's talk about some of the high level stats of where is LinkedIn at today. Well, for some time now, they've been at over 1 billion members.
Wow.
With a B, 1 billion members with a B, more than 200 countries. There's over 67 million companies registered on LinkedIn. And in the United States, I found one place that said the largest national market is the United States with 233 million users. But that didn't make sense because then they went on to say that the Asia Pacific market has 277 million. And I was like, wait a minute, that sounds like a bigger number. But anyways, apparently the U.S. is the biggest market, hundreds of millions of people from the United States. And this, I didn't know this. I was really actually surprised to see this. 40% of those people access LinkedIn on a daily basis,
Wow.
which surprised me. I thought it would be less than that. I thought most people were checking it like once a week or something. Almost half are looking at it every day.
Here's why I think that's happening really quick. I don't want to cut you off, but so like I don't know. In the last year, I put together some content on LinkedIn, and I looked up a bunch of the stats. So that doesn't surprise me that it said that. Here's my like hypothesis on why I think that could be the case, and I want to hijack the conversation. Is I feel like as more social media networks pop up, there used to be like a couple big ones, right? There'd be like Facebook and LinkedIn and like Twitter. Kind of, they all have their own purpose. Now I feel like there's not like a single social network that dominates anything. It's like Facebook has come back a little bit. And then you have Twitter, you have like there's TikTok, but that's like a whole different thing. And then Snapchat, Pinterest, all these different sites. I think it's a little more fragmented than it used to be, but LinkedIn is the one consistent one that because it's unique compared to all of the other ones. There's not a competitor for it. There are Facebook competitors in terms of like your attention, like Instagram competitors, like Instagram versus TikTok. What do? There's not really one against LinkedIn. So that's why I think it's had some decent, steady growth. And I think it's more active than it's ever been personally. Maybe not ever, but in terms of like percentage of people interacting with content based on the users, but it's grown a whole lot. And when I get on there and I've been paying a lot more attention in the last 6 months. It's been pretty impressive with the amount of people.
Yeah, it is. I think it is more active than it's ever been. And I find more people talking about it now than ever have been. When I go on there, the amount of likes and comments that I'm seeing on content and stuff is more than what I've really have ever seen. And so they've been doing a great job. And in 2017, so we're going 7 years ago, LinkedIn did $2 billion in revenue. For those of you who don't know, LinkedIn was acquired by Microsoft quite some time ago. And Microsoft CEO actually has LinkedIn listed as one of his top 10 priorities. That's obviously huge global corporation that's just out there dominating the world. And LinkedIn is one of their top priorities. So they've gone from 2017 revenue of $2 billion. Every year they've grown and by 1 or 2 billion a year. And now in last year, they did over 15 billion in revenue. So they're just the LinkedIn ship just keeps climbing higher into the sky. Most used platform of the Fortune 500, 90% of the people in Fortune 500 companies on LinkedIn are active on the platform, which is really cool. It makes sense. And to Ryan's point, the reason is because if you're looking for a place to go online to do business, to find business people, to prospect, to market, LinkedIn's like it's the only game in town. They do not have a competitor. They're meeting a market need that nobody else is meeting, and so people just keep on doing it, and nothing is going to replace it. When I wrote the book Connect, which is up, I got a little plaque on my wall from when we made the Wall Street Journal bestseller list with that, which is, if you don't know, it's a book all about LinkedIn marketing. And it was released about 9 years ago. So when I wrote that book, actually at the time, I remember thinking like, it's probably got a short shelf life because these social media platforms, they all have their day in the sun and then they go away. And so I didn't think we'd be sitting here nearly 10 years later with LinkedIn doing even better than ever before and people getting even greater results from it too, which is the main thing that most of the clients that we're working with, the people that we help and have helped for the last decade plus, the reason they're using it is because they want to get more leads and clients from LinkedIn. And that's what we've helped people to do and have pioneered a number of different methods for doing that. So LinkedIn, here's another stat. This is kind of an old, outdated one, but apparently is still roughly in the realm of of accuracy for what's happening today on LinkedIn. HubSpot had this study that they put out that said LinkedIn is 277% more effective at generating leads than Facebook and Twitter. And a more recent study, not to, it's no surprise based on that data, 79% of B2B marketers, I had that backwards. I'm sorry. 97% of B2B marketers incorporate LinkedIn into their content marketing strategies, with LinkedIn accounting for 80% of their social media leads. This wasn't the HubSpot study. This was a different one. Which one was this? This came from LinkedIn's own data. Their Sophisticated Marketer's Guide to LinkedIn, it's called, ebook of sorts they put out with a bunch of data, and they said that 97% of B2B marketers are using LinkedIn, and LinkedIn is accounting for 80% of their leads from social media. That's pretty solid. And they said LinkedIn drives 46% of social traffic to B2B sites and is considered the most credible source of content, which is important too. People trust what they see on LinkedIn more than a lot of other places. So anyways, LinkedIn still out there killing it, still out there crushing it. Some cool things that kind of will lead you to see why it's important that you're staying relevant and active on LinkedIn. LinkedIn published data that said pages which post weekly have 5 times more followers than those which only post monthly, and their overall following grows at a rate 7 times faster. So obviously very important that you're staying active, doing something at least once a week on LinkedIn. And those are kind of the big picture numbers that I wanted to share with you, just to kind of answer the question of is LinkedIn still something that you need to be doing? And if you're not getting good results from it, figure out a way to take advantage of it and change that, because it's kind of a gold mine sitting there. And I hear from people all the time who are crushing it on LinkedIn. Yeah. And some of them are, have worked with other people. Some of them are people either using my strategies. And so it's working for a ton of people. And if you're not doing it, it can work for you too. If you are doing it, there's always, there's so many ways to utilize it to sharpen the sword and get better results. And so let's talk a little bit about that and what's working today on LinkedIn. And Tim, I know you work with many clients on this stuff. So I want to get your perspective on what are you seeing as kind of just the most effective overall approach.
Yeah, sure. A couple of things, Josh. So first of all, I want to go back to one thing you said at the beginning there that it really blew my mind. I didn't know. So 230 million people in America. So I want everyone to think about this. And 40% of them are checking daily, which means over 100 million people in business are on this thing on a regular basis. Would have never on a daily basis in America. If your business obviously is in America. I mean, that's a mind-blowing number, first of all. So, but to answer your question, there's so many things I could talk about LinkedIn. I couldn't possibly do it in a short segment, but I'll say one of the most important things, I've got 5 points I listed here. I'm just going to mention a couple. One is how people connect on LinkedIn. I'll be really curious out there, and I'd love to hear from some people here on this live stream. How many of you get these messages? And I get them pretty much every day. People try to connect with me and they'll go, hey, Ryan, came across your profile. Just so you know, I help people just like you. If you click the link below, I'll help you save $2 million over the next 6 weeks. I get that shit, almost every single day. It's like meeting somebody at a bar and ask them to go home with me before they even know my name, kind of thing. It's just way too quick. So the first thing I want to say is never have a call to action. Never tell people all about yourself and how great you are. The thing we like to do that we teach in a couple of different classes that I teach, and including one we'll be teaching here tomorrow to our members. But one of the most important things I'll say to them is, for example, if I'm trying to connect with, say, Ryan, who's a marketing guy, I would say on my profile that I work, I help, I serve marketing people. And I really would just connect with Ryan in a simple, friendly message saying, hey, Ryan, hey, I work with marketing managers like yourself. Thought it would be beneficial to connect. Have yourself a great day. No solicitation, nothing like that. If you do things like that and have a profile that talks about your prospect, I see most people that I work with on average be anywhere from 35 to a 50% connection rate. So let's split the difference around 40 or so percent connection rate. And I wanna expand on that just a little more. So think about everybody here. So with Sales Navigator, right? You can reach out to well over 100 people a week. And what does that mean if you're hitting 40%? That means at least 40 new people on your list every single week. And my guess is there's not a B2B person either on our list, on this call, in our classes that can't use 40 new prospects coming through their system every single month. And that's the power of LinkedIn. And the cost to do that is Sales Navigator, which is, nothing compared to what it is to get a client for you. So that's my first. Go ahead, Ryan. You got to say something, I think.
And that last point, and I'll hand it to Ryan very quickly. A lot of people ask that. Do I need Sales Navigator to do this?
Yes.
And it is very helpful. If you're really doing it and you're serious about it, you're going to end up wanting it and using it. It's not that expensive. I know people who will start with just a free account and, to get their wheels going, but eventually they upgrade.
Yeah. And I'll say, here's how I tell people to get Sales Navigator. I ask them, whoop, that was weird. I ask them one simple question, Josh. I say to them, so, what is one customer worth to you? And let's just say somebody says to me, they're worth about $5,000. So I tell them, I said, if you get Sales Navigator and you get one customer, you have paid for Sales Navigator for roughly the next 7 or 8 years. So it's worth it. It's like opening a brick and mortar bookstore saying, I'm not buying the shelves. I just want the books on the floor. It's just, right? Go ahead, Ryan. Sorry.
Oh no, you're all good. First off, there's someone just going to town with some yard tools, some yard equipment outside, and I don't know what they're using, but it sounds like it needs to be tuned up because good Lord. But in terms of LinkedIn, that's throwing me off a little bit. But if we're talking about sending connection requests and using Sales Navigator, because I do think the reason Sales Navigator is important, we want to talk about why it's important, is because the way you can filter will allow you to actually get the right prospects and not most of the right prospects. So the work that you're doing, it increases your limits with everything. So you're not going to get shut down and be like, oh, you've looked at too many profiles, you've looked at too many pages, because what they want you to do is they kind of they have these rates of the usage rates. If you use it too much, then you are kind of capped for that week, that month, whatever. Sales Navigator opens it up. But the biggest thing that it can do is you can use filters to really dial in your prospects, because that's what you want to do. The reason LinkedIn is listed, and this is the whole reason I like it and why I tell people to use it, is listed all the time in these stats of it's the best for B2B, is not because the most people use it. It's got a great user base, as Josh mentioned, but it's the people that you want to use it. You don't have to. It saves you so much time by not getting so many bullshit meetings and people that you have no idea anything about them. You just know what this persona is that they have on this social media site. You don't know if it's actually them. LinkedIn is the only one that has relatively accurate professional data that you can use to sift through. People can put that stuff on their Twitter, X profile, or Facebook, or all of them. But who knows if that's actually accurate? And then and they're there for a specific reason. But
so you can target the exact people that you want to work with, and you don't have to waste your time having meetings that are a waste of time. You can just go really get the very best prospects for your business, line up 100 of them, work them through a campaign, and you're going to get a percentage of them to meet with you, and then a percentage of those people eventually to say that they'll work with you.
And here's a good example of why a search, because I recently did this for a webinar that I did. If you wanted to find somebody, let's just say you worked, you're a marketing agency, because that's the world we live in. A marketing agency that works with, let's say mid-level companies, somebody that's 10 to 50 million, around that area. And you work with CMOs. A lot of times when you get in the person you usually talk to is the CMO and then their team. Typically the best time to work with those people or to approach those people is when there is a change in that role, because they're going to be looking to bring in their own people and their own resources. It's very similar to people talk about, use a sports analogy. when a new GM for a team comes in and they'll like clean house with some players because it's not their guy. They'll do the same thing with companies do the same thing when they bring in an executive like that. But Sales Navigator has a feature that'll show you like, find me chief marketing officers or whatever that have recently started a new role in the last 6 months. And that'll allow you to reach out and find people that are much more likely. Now, that doesn't mean the other people are bad prospects. You want to ignore them, but it'll be those might be your best prospects. You can dial it in. And like, if you're serious about doing it, you're going to do this like consistently, because that's the most important thing with LinkedIn overall, is like finding the right people and then consistently doing things. Not any one individual like button to push that's going to magically make you money. Once if you're committed to doing that, like, to me, it's worth it. And this isn't like an infomercial for Sales Navigator. If you don't want to use it, that's fine. But like, that's where the value really lies to me.
Yeah, well, at the end of the day, I mean, it's just about like, you can find, if you have a clear picture of who your ideal prospect is, you can find a ton of them on LinkedIn, and there's a bunch of different ways to go about doing it. So what we're talking about right now is like direct prospecting. And what that takes, really, there's a few components to that. So what we usually teach is like, the first thing you want to start with is making sure that your profile is set up properly, right? So we call that profile optimization. And there's a handful of things that you're going to want to do to make sure that you've got that thing ready for prime time, ready so that when you reach out to people, you're putting your best foot forward, right? And so once you have that in place and that's looking good, then you're really at a stage of doing prospecting, which is where Sales Navigator might come into play for you. You can use that. You can do it using groups. Tim has a bunch of different strategies for prospecting. And then once you've got the connections coming in and the prospecting, it's what kind of a messaging approach is going to move these prospects, these strangers on LinkedIn, really, into them starting to know, like, and trust you, to eventually say yes to having a meeting with you. And then the fourth component that's in there. So what I just talked about was your profile, prospecting, messaging. The fourth thing that we're going to put on the front end of those two is content marketing on LinkedIn, so that you are, like what I talked about earlier, people who are active on LinkedIn at least once a week are going to grow their following 7 times faster than people who are only doing it once a month. So as an important part of this whole process is pushing something out there on LinkedIn once a week, at least. Some people are doing it every day, but at least once a week is a great place to be and start. And there's easy ways to go about doing it, whether it's posting in the feed, whether it's starting your own newsletter. There are tools to automate it. There are tools to help you even come up with the content for it. There are other strategies you can do, like creating your own group on LinkedIn. And so there's a number of ways to skin the cat. And obviously, we can't like talk about every single one of them right now, but pretty quickly, when you kind of look at the landscape of it, you can figure out a plan for, I'm going to do a little of this, a little of this, a little of this. And once you have all those things moving forward, you really have kind of like a complete lead generation plan in place that's going to just consistently bring leads in the door with not a whole lot of work, really, right?
Right. I'd love to add a couple more points. I actually wrote down a couple notes on what both of you were just saying. And one thing I want to say about the profile optimization, and this may sound silly to some people, but I'll tell a very short story of a client I was on the phone with a couple of weeks ago, and I had to tell him to change his picture, because in the picture I told him, I said, it looked like your dog just died in the picture. I said, yeah, your face. The guy he looked so sad and miserable. I'm like, you gotta, seriously, the people who don't have pictures, you gotta look approachable, like the way Ryan's smiling right now, very approachable smile. So
someone take a screenshot of that.
Yeah, I have plenty.
It's so important. I mean, this guy looked like so upset and angry. So the other thing I wanted to say is really everything we're talking about here on LinkedIn is not going in for the kill. We're talking about building relationships over time. You work with people you recognize. You work with names you know. You work with names who have dropped some cool content that you're used to seeing. And then the last thing I wanted to say is we talked about the people who are active on LinkedIn. Well, on Sales Navigator, this is one of my favorite tricks. Let's just say you've got a list. You come up with, business owners, a certain industry, a certain geography, and the list is still 25,000 people. You don't want to list that big because that's going to take you, 5 years to go through. You then can click a little button if you have Sales Navigator. You can just get into the people that post regularly on LinkedIn. I can take that number going from 20,000 right down to about 3,000 or 4,000 that are regularly active on LinkedIn. And then bingo, you have this very hot list. It's one of my favorite techniques. So
nice, man. Tim, I got a question for you. So in terms of outcomes, one of the things people ask me about a lot is like, what can I expect to get out of this?
Yeah.
And obviously you talked earlier about like how easy it is to quantify the number of prospects that you're consistently bringing in.
Yes.
Like with people you work with, what's a common goal that people have for that's realistic? Because some people have crazy goals that are silly. What's a realistic goal people that you work with have in terms of like number of new clients they hope to get from LinkedIn?
Yeah, I love that question, my friend. So first of all, before I say this, I'll say that as long as you have a prospect that is very findable on LinkedIn, you've got the good profile, you've got the right approach, you should, on average, and what I encourage people to do, if you take any of the classes that I run in various places, is I ask them to block out really simple. Just put in your Google Calendar or whatever calendar you use, 15 minutes. If it's 11 to 11:15 every day, that's your 15 minutes on LinkedIn prospecting. With that, as a rule of thumb, as an overview average, you can expect about 150 new prospects in your system. Okay. And with that, you should be able to expect, with the right marketing, the relationship building marketing, not the first email. Hey, come on, let's meet up. None of that stuff. We share value for a while. We can expect in the list of 150, I see people anywhere from 5 to 15 meetings in a month. And then that comes down to the various person's close rate, So at that point, hey, if you're closing 20%, 20% of 5 to 15 could be anywhere from 1 sale to 3 sales a month. So think about that number and what's a sale worth to you with those numbers. I mean, that and those are really real numbers. Then what happens too, Josh, part 2 to that is over time, these people, so let's just say that, for argument's sake, 5% of those people take meetings out of that 150. So that's about 7 meetings. So that means over 140 didn't take your meeting. Well, those 140 are going to be marketed to for a long period of time. So a portion of them will come around. So as you do this for a long period of time, more meetings are coming in. You're getting the guy or girl who you met a month ago on some calls, and then you're getting that another person that's been with you for 7, 8, 10 months on your list is taking a call. So as time goes on, that number is going to increase, but only if you do it. When I say every day, I don't mean weekends, because LinkedIn's pretty dead on the weekends, but those are very real numbers, Josh. I've worked with probably over 1,000 people just on that philosophy. So
yeah, cool, man. I know you've done it all. There's probably nobody who's got more experience at this stuff than Tim now. Yeah, and so one of the other things that people often say to me is, "Oh, I don't know what to say. I don't have the time to be creating content and all that." And so we've come up with some different ways that really make that much easier. There's a few different paths you can go to make it much easier, and we'll be talking about that stuff, and we'll be sharing kind of more in depth on some of these LinkedIn related topics over the next week or two. So keep an eye on your email or on our LinkedIn group if you want to get that stuff. We'll send it to you. But for now, that's it on the LinkedIn stuff. We'll be sharing more details, though, like I said, over the next week or two with some more resources on how to do some of this stuff. So looking forward to that.